flight. First in flight. First in flight. First in flight. Free, like a bird out in the wind of the night. Like a 747 to a Elliot in flight. Free, like a garden flourishing in the wind. Like a student about to do it when he's graduating. Free, from any other energy perception. Can never be defined, create the definition within. Free, just like a life of something never pretend to be. Anything other than the never meant to be. Revolutionary greetings. You're listening to Poor People's Revolutionary Radio and TV FM LP on KEXU 96.1, coming at you from out of deep East Oakland, Witchin territory. Welcome everybody tonight to the show. This is your post scholar and host, Biz Molotov, aka the Voodoo Child. And that's right, people, we poor. We're not poor, we're poor. We are so poor, we can't even afford that little O and that little R. So remember that and help us out, help us support this station and what we're trying to do in the community. Before we get started tonight with our guests, I would like, there's two events this week. We always give a shout out and have some stories about our political prisoners and prisoners of war. So this weekend, October 27 at 6:30 at UC Hastings Law School, 198 McAllister, Room A, there will be a program talking about Mumia Abdul-Jamar's current legal case. He may have some action to go back into court. We're hoping that happens. At the same time, Mumia, who had fought to get relief from hepatitis C and for himself and other prisoners in the California concentration camps, he is cured, but because they took so long delaying it, that he now has cirrhosis of the liver. So we're going to wish our brother to get well and get healed. Also on October 28th at the Neville Proctor Marxist Library, 6501 Telegraph Avenue in Oakland, that same program will be happening. So if you can't make it Friday, try to make it out there Saturday. And we always say what we say, free them all. What's the call? Free them all. All right, so joining us tonight on Poor People's Revolutionary Radio and TV is Brother Tahak. For many of you who may not know who this brother is, Brother Tahak has been putting in some major work in the anti-oppression arena. Work here in the East Bay. He organizes with the APTP, Anti-Police Terror Project, Community Ready Corps, ARM, and he's also the field marshal for Panther Cub. So welcome to the show, brother. Welcome.
Right on.
Poor People's Revolutionary Radio.
Right on. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So, I've been checking out some of your video commentaries in regard to a host of subjects and issues that are impacting our communities in general and the black community in particular. And I really respect your analysis and your analogy, especially with that smooth and soothe and smash and grab. Resonates strongly with many of us. But we'll be getting to that soon. But I want to begin off with now getting your take on this recent leaked, they say it's leaked FBI counterintelligence report branding those who are out there in the streets, such as yourself, brother, resisting white supremacist gangs and their violence, being branded by the FBI as this thing called black identity extremists. What many are calling a replay of J. Edgar Hoover's counterintelligence program, or Cointail Probe, is now saying, looks like we're here again, but Cointail 2.0. So this has some serious ramifications for many folks out there on the front line trying to dismantle this archaic, parasitic, cannibalistic social order known as Americlan. So what's your take on that, brother?
I think you said it properly just then. That with Cointail Probe, we got to realize that when that was exposed, that was a result of revolutionaries. That was a result of folks extracting that information and making it known to the public. Had that not happened, we'd still be in the dark as to why these strange occurrences, why things never added up, why those individuals and organizations that we felt were suspect, we could never quite put our finger on it, right? But at that point, the critical thing about Cointail Probe was that Cointail Probe was illegal by their laws. Right? Now, we know that don't mean much. Right? That don't amount to a whole lot.
Right, right.
But why it is relevant, though, is because the American predatory dynamic has to maintain the facade of justice, freedom, equality, all of those things, right? Now, we're real clear on the reality of those things, but it has to maintain the facade. That's the difference in the American version of imperialism, the American version of capitalism, the American version of predatory state power, is that it maintains the facade, whereas others, before the American experiment, didn't necessarily rely on the illusion as much. And they learned after thousands of years of trying this, that this facade was the way that they wanted to go, and it's worked pretty well for a while. So they have to maintain at least the illusion. But what they've done now with the black identity extremists, the Patriot Act, and all of these different things, right? Because we have to realize this goes back to what they call 9/11, right? There was when those planes hit that building. I was sitting in the living room, and I had a conversation with my wife as that was happening. I said that from this, they're going to go from Muslim extremists to black Muslim extremists. They're going to tie that to the black radical community, and this is the process that they're going to attempt to engage in. Now, we know that because the work that folks like us do, it makes it harder for them to do those things, so sometimes it's protracted. It doesn't happen right then and there. So sometimes it takes a decade, sometimes it takes 2 decades, but the thing about the American predatory power dynamic is that they are not bound by this moment. And when I say they're not bound by this moment, they look at things long term. So where we get discouraged because we don't meet our goals in a year, 2 years, even 5 years, they're looking 100 years down the road. They have 100-year plans that they break down into smaller increments. That's a fact. We can just look at speculators, come on, what they call them, developers, right? These big development companies, they have 50-year plans. We know that. They have 50-year plans that they're breaking down in smaller increments. So they have long-range plans, right? City planners, they have long-range plans for what they see for a city. So that's how they think. So we often lose the context by remembering that this is a power dynamic, right? And the power dynamic has a long memory and a far-reaching sight. So they have gotten to that point now. They finally reached that point of where they can criminalize the black militant legally, right? Legally. Now, once again, we know that that's a real, that's a loose term when we say legal, right? We know that that don't mean much. Like I said, that ain't worth a damn here. But now, because they can do it above board, it changes the dynamic. It's more brutal. I often talk about the smooth and soothe and the smash and grab, right? And when we talk about smooth and soothe and smash and grab, we say that the Obama administration was a smooth and soothe phase, right? As a brother Steve Coakley said, and it might have been Steve Coakley said, and Steve has passed away, but he said that the American mandate when it comes to power is they will rule by consent or conquest. Consent or conquest. They gonna take it or you gonna give it to them. One of the two. That's how they see the world, right? And so understanding that the smooth and soothe is the consent, the engineering your consent. The smash and grab is they gonna take it. They gonna take it, but they gonna get it. That's their way. Now I'm not saying that these people, these power holders, the power brokers, the 1%, however we want to label it, are undefeatable. So no, I'm not attaching some God perspective to them. I'm talking about how they see things, right? Now we see things completely different. We gonna push back, right? And we don't believe that we can. We believe we are going to win and can win. So, and I think that's important to say, right? Because often when we're analyzing this thing, we often give them way more power than they actually have, right? We believe that they're infallible, omnipotent, and that's just not the case.
Because Chairman Mao Zedong said they're paper tigers.
Man, all day.
But they have teeth.
But all of the power that they have is based on our consent.
Exactly.
It's based on what we give them.
Exactly.
Right? They understand better than we do that all that power is predicated on the consent of the masses. All of that power is predicated on the consent of the masses. So it becomes our job to politicize the mass to the point that they understand I'm not giving my consent away anymore. Right? I'm not giving my... They can't build it on our backs if we don't let them. Right? So this black identity extremist is an important phase because it's an important aspect of what they're trying to do right now. Because we say that... And brother, I've been talking about this war on dissent
exactly
for a few years now because there are a lot of us who've been doing this, brother. You've been doing this for years, right? Decades, right? It's certain patterns that play out over and over and over, right? When you study those patterns, you can kind of see what's coming. Exactly. That's the way life works. There are patterns,
right?
And when you study life and you look at your dynamics, you know what's about to come 9 times out of 10. You might not always know the specifics, but you can see those patterns as they come down, right? And one of the patterns that we can see is we're in a period of upheaval right now. The people are standing up, right? This movement that they labeled Black Lives Matter, right? And we could get into that. You know, that was an attempt to, in my opinion, to co-opt legitimate revolutionary resistance anger, right? And that's a whole nother subject we can jump into at a later date, right? But we got to say what happened in Ferguson.
Yes.
That was the people. Right. That wasn't no movement.
Exactly.
That wasn't no organization.
That's
right. And what happened in Ferguson sparked that whole thing. And then there were people who put their movements on top of that, on the backs of that, right? Exactly. So, but that was genuine people's resistance. That was genuine people's upheaval, right? And it was a unique phenomenon that happened in Ferguson because those were black, disenfranchised folks standing up for themselves, and they was in them streets in an organized fashion without ceasing. No matter how much they hit them, no matter how much they hurt them, they stayed at them, right? And that began a series of things. And we can take it back to Oscar Grant also. But I say all of that to say why that's so important, why those phases are so important. From Oscar Grant, Trayvon Martin, all of these things, us watching folks get killed in the streets, it triggered a genuine moment of people's upheaval.
Okay, just want to jump in right now because we're already at 20, but getting the sign over there. So real quick before we finish, I want people to know about the Community Ready Corps. Yes, and can you describe that to our listening audience, what exactly that is, and how people can, more importantly, how people can plug into that?
Right on. So first of all, I'm a founder of the Community Ready Corps, but I'm also a central committee member of the POCC Black Panther Cubs. I'm the field marshal of that organization. I'm the co-founder of the Anti-Police Terror Project. The Community Ready Corps is an organization. We have 9 basic areas that we feel like are important for a self-determined culture. Our whole mission is to create a culture of self-determination and safety in our communities. So with the Community Ready Corps, we have 9 areas that we feel are what we call the components to a healthy self-determined culture, right? There's education, there's politics, there's self-defense, there's media, art, family, health, traditions and ways, and what did I leave out? I left out one somewhere. I think I said education. With the 9 areas, and that we believe that these 9 areas are critical to the development of a self-determined culture. And we feel like this is what we get broken down. So one of the things that we do is we like to support other organizations who are working in one of those areas, because we don't believe that we can be the organization that's doing everything everywhere, right? We believe that there is a necessary gelling component that begins to help bring these things together through contribution, right? That's what we are. Contribute.
Yeah.
Contribute. Because often in the movement you have this duplication of predatory processes. Everybody's competing for the same monies. Everybody's competing for the same territories. And so then there's never this ethic of contribution, right? Of solidarity through true contribution, right? Yeah. That means I got to be willing to play the background and take the lesser role in terms of visibility sometimes, or resources to support the work somebody else is doing, right? So, you know, that's our primary approach. So, you know, we've been involved in a bunch of stuff for a long time in the Bay Area, and sometimes people don't see us because we are quiet in the background.
Okay. Still rolling, right? Okay. All right, so we do have a little more time than I thought we have. Just to go back to the you mentioned something to go back to the black identity extremist. I guess I am a black identity extremist. I identify with black. I am black, and I'm extreme on these. Anyway, so come get me. Oh, I'm already in file. I forgot.
Already.
So anyway, so I'm talking to young people about this. Young people who are new to activism, and I'm letting them know, because they always ask me. I said, well, you wanted how it was for us in the 60s, 70s, where depression against us, right? You know, revolutionary formations, and you at the risk about to find out. Some of these groups, he's talking about Black Lives Matter, I'm not disparaging Black Lives Matter, but Black Lives Matter will give a cursory shout out or acknowledgments of black political prisoners of war. But in the Black Lives Matter platforms, there's nothing in there about political prisoners and prisoners of wars. And we used to say back in the day, any movement that neglects political prisoners of war is a sham movement. I'm not calling Black Lives Matter a sham movement, but I'm talking about any other movement out there too that is not acknowledging and working to free our political prisoners. So these folks are not acknowledging that, and I tell them that you must think you don't have the potential of becoming a political prisoner. You see what I'm saying? That you don't know how it works, and that's why these folks are locked up, because they were out there on the street doing the things that you're out here doing, and you're the youth. And the directive Cointail Probe mainly said to prevent potential revolutionary, especially among the youth. And if the youth want to give the message, if the youth was thinking about being a revolutionary, he's going to be a dead, or she's going to be a dead revolutionary. So we're seeing that again. And I know, brother, you've been out there in the open. You've been out there in Berkeley providing, you and brother Che providing defense out there for those groups and everything. And I know that they're looking at that. And I'm thinking at first, they looking at it was the Antifa. They say, oh, there's white folks and some more white folks fighting. Ain't no deal. But now people like you showing up there. And they're afraid now. They're afraid of what? Black leadership. And they go, oh, no, we can't let black radicals hook up with Antifa and other radical European anti-imperialists out there. Our shit's going to hit the fan. Because of what Nixon said in that meeting. He said, everybody knows, let's face it, the problems is black. Because black revolutionary leadership was causing whites, the feminist movement, the gay lesbian movement were now becoming radicalized and becoming militants, and by that league. So, brother, you really on the list. But hey, we're gonna be on the list, because like I always say, if you ain't on the list, you ain't doing shit. Because they don't mess with no punks, no chumps. They come after the real. So anyway, I'm getting a signal. We're going to wind it up. I once again want to thank Brother Terhawk for joining us tonight on Poor People's Radio, KEXU 96.1, coming out of deep East Oakland, Black Arthur, Witchin territory. And we out of here. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Right on.
All right.
Right on.
Right on, bro. Appreciate y'all, man.
Right on.
Nice.
Hey, some food in there, y'all. Some food.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
Right on, but
some goat. We got goat.
I'm going to take some goat with